What does this mean? A furious voice echoed from the doorway, startling both Melissa and Chase. Melissa quickly stepped away from Chase, but it was too late. They were caught in the act by Chase's fiancé. "You filthy traitors! You pigs!" Fiona yelled, storming into the room. She lunged at Melissa, but Chase immediately stood between them, taking the brunt of Fiona's anger. Melissa backed away, tears streaming down her cheeks, uncertain whether she was crying out of guilt, fear, or the sting of being discovered. She had been in a secret relationship with Chase, her employer, for several months. She was only a housekeeper who had fallen in love with the man she worked for. Melissa had tried to fight her feelings, but she had been weak, especially when Chase himself had shown her affection. "Don't you dare get any closer to her," Chase warned, voice tense, as he pushed Fiona back. "Ha! So you've chosen her over me?" Fiona let out a bitter laugh, refusing to budge. "You really think you two will be happy together?" Fiona's eyes burned with an unbridled rage. She pointed a trembling finger at Melissa. "You snake! You think you'll be happy? You think you two will end up together?" Her words were laced with fury. Melissa trembled. She couldn't deny the overwhelming guilt that consumed her. She knew her relationship with Chase was wrong. He was still engaged to Fiona, after all. Many times Chase had said he no longer loved Fiona, and Melissa felt his sincerity. But still, it didn't erase the fact that he was another woman's fiancé. "Get out of my house, Fiona," Chase demanded, trying to rein in his anger. "Leave now while I'm still holding back." Fiona's fingernails dug into Melissa's arm as she tried to yank her away, but Chase pulled Fiona back, dragging her to the hallway. "Let go of me!" Fiona screamed. "I won't leave until I've ripped that woman to shreds." Even as Fiona was forced outside by the house's security team, her screams rang through the corridor. She spat out threats and insults. She looked down on Melissa, comparing her own status to Melissa's lowly position as a housekeeper. Melissa dared to peek out the window of Chase's bedroom, watching as Fiona stood in the driveway, sobbing and pounding her fists against Chase's chest. Chase let her. After a few moments, additional guards showed up to escort Fiona off the property completely. Melissa leaned against the wall, her knees weak. She couldn't understand the tumult of emotions crashing inside her. Part of her was relieved that Fiona finally knew, that the relationship was now out in the open, and that Chase had made his choice, her. But something felt heavy in her chest, a constant ache accompanied by a flutter of fear. "Are you okay?" Chase asked softly when he returned to the bedroom. Melissa nodded, trying to hide her worries. "Come here," Chase said, wrapping her in a tight embrace. He pressed a tender kiss to the top of her head. "I'm scared," Melissa whispered. "Chase, what if—" "Shh." He smoothed his hand over her cheek. "Don't be afraid. You should be happy now." Melissa forced a smile, though fear still fluttered in her stomach. She recalled Fiona's threats, which still rang in her ears. The next day, Chase took Melissa to visit his parents at their estate. She hesitated, but he insisted. "It'll be all right," Chase assured her, holding her hand. "I'll be with you." They walked hand in hand into the stately house. Melissa wanted to turn around and run. "Chase," she whispered, "maybe we should just go home." He leaned down to brush his lips across hers. "Relax, hun. Inhale, exhale." A woman, Chase's mother, Mrs. Farah, was seated on the living room couch. She froze the moment she saw them. The smile on her face faded instantly when she noticed their intertwined hands. Melissa tried to pull away, but Chase tightened his grip, determined to stand by her. "What is the meaning of this?" Mrs. Farah demanded, eyes narrowing. Melissa could barely speak. She felt glued to the floor, and all she wanted was to vanish. "She's my girlfriend," Chase stated firmly. "Your girlfriend?" his mother repeated, anger creeping into her voice. "How dare you replace Fiona with some lowly housekeeper? My goodness!" She pressed a hand to her forehead in mock disbelief. "Please don't say that," Chase said. "I love her and you're still engaged to Fiona. Do you realize that your wedding date has already been set for next year? That wedding is months away. Besides, it isn't going to happen," Chase insisted. "You are so selfish, Chase." His mother slammed a hand down on the armrest. "That marriage is vitally important to our family. Meanwhile, you're only thinking of yourself." "No," Chase said, voice rising. "You're the selfish one, Mother." Melissa squeezed Chase's hand, silently begging him to calm down. She felt she had no right to speak, no right to interfere in a family matter. "If you think I will ever accept her," Mrs. Farrah sneered at Melissa, "then you're sorely mistaken. Get out, both of you, out of this house." Before they could leave, she spoke again, her voice trembling with rage. "If you believe you'll be happy together, think again. As long as I'm alive—" She let the threat hang in the air and jabbed a finger in Melissa's direction. Melissa felt more frightened of Chase's mother than she ever had of Fiona. Exhaustion swept through her as she exited the mansion with Chase. Her heart pounded, and her palms were slick with nervous sweat. Chase sighed heavily and pulled her into his arms before getting into his car. "Don't dwell on what Mom said," he murmured, pressing a kiss to her temple. "I'm sorry on her behalf. Please just ignore it. She doesn't understand, but I know what I want." Melissa nodded, but her mind was a swirl of anxiety. Fiona's insults were one thing, but hearing such venom from Chase's mother cut deep. It felt impossible to forget. Instead of going straight home, they drove to Monterey for a short trip. Melissa actually managed to enjoy the day, laughing with Chase and momentarily forgetting the hostility they had just faced. Later, back at Chase's house, Melissa felt her unease creeping in. "Be careful, all right?" she said softly, watching Chase pack. He tugged her close and whispered, "You be careful too. I'll call you every night. I won't be gone long, just 4 days in Chicago for a business meeting." Melissa forced a smile, though she clutched at him like she didn't want him to go. "When I get back," he promised, "we're getting married." He'd been saying it for days now, a grand plan for them to wed as soon as possible. Melissa glanced at the glittering ring on her finger, a large, sparkling diamond he had given her on the night he proposed. Everything was happening so fast, but she was sure she loved Chase. She wanted him to be her husband, the father of her future children, the man she would love forever. Chase pressed one final lingering kiss to her lips before heading out to his car. Once he was gone, the emptiness in the house grew more pronounced, and Melissa tried to stay busy. That evening, she and Mrs. Berta, once the longtime caretaker for Chase's family, now staying with him, cooked a lavish dinner. "He'll be happy to have all his favorites ready when he comes home," Melissa said, smiling at Mrs. Berta. She was grateful she wasn't alone in the big house, which only felt more cavernous without Chase. For the next few days, Melissa and Chase communicated through video calls. She tried not to text him much during the day, anxious about disturbing his work, but each night they spoke, trading sweet words and longing glances through the screen. "I miss you," he said one night, smiling at her through his phone. He was still out at a restaurant, but that didn't stop him from speaking freely. "I can't wait to kiss you and make love to you again." Melissa's cheeks burned. "Hey, not so loud. Someone might hear you," she teased, imagining the other restaurant patrons giving him odd looks. He just smirked. "So what if they do? Go back to your hotel room and call me when you're settled, okay?" "I love you, Melissa." "I love you too," she said, face still flushed. The next day, wanting everything perfect for his return, she cleaned the house from top to bottom. She changed the curtains, put on fresh linens, arranged decorative pillows, all to surprise him. She felt a fluttery excitement imagining Chase's reaction when he walked in. While she was busy in the kitchen, cooking Chase's favorite dishes with Mrs. Berta, she heard a voice that made her spin around. "Well, well, looks like you two are busy," Mrs. Farah said, standing in the doorway with a sarcastic smile on her lips. Melissa and Mrs. Berta exchanged wary glances. "Is there a special occasion?" she asked, arching an eyebrow. Melissa tried to keep her voice steady. "Chase is returning from Chicago today. We just wanted to—" You shouldn't have bothered," Mrs. Farah cut her off. "You're only wasting my son's money. I suppose you can't do anything besides depleting his bank account. You're such a gold digger." The cruel words stung. Melissa fought back tears, choosing to remain silent rather than start an argument. She still respected Chase's mother, no matter what the woman said to her. "Well," Mrs. Farah continued, "I actually came here to tell you to leave my son's house." Melissa swallowed the lump in her throat. "Did you hear me? Get out!" Melissa gathered her courage. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but I won't leave unless Chase himself tells me to. If he wants me gone, I'll go." A mocking laugh escaped her. "Oh, I see. You're that kind of person, hard to get rid of. Then talk to this." She placed a small piece of paper on the table. What's that?" Melissa asked, apprehensive. "It's a check for $5 million. Take it and disappear from my son's life." Melissa shook her head, tears threatening to fall. "I can't accept that. Like I said, I'll only leave if Chase tells me to. I love him." "Oh, so you don't want my money?" she sneered. "You must be holding out for more from Chase. Is that it?" She tapped a manicured nail on the check. "Fine. This will be here when you finally come to your senses." She marched out of the house, leaving Melissa physically shaking. Melissa sank into a chair and clutched at her chest. "She hasn't changed a bit," Mrs. Berta murmured, handing Melissa a glass of water. "Go upstairs, dear. Take a moment to rest. I'll finish up here." Melissa nodded. "Please throw that check away," she requested softly, pushing it back toward her. "I don't want it." She headed to the bedroom, took a shower, and changed into a floral dress she had bought with Chase at the mall recently. She put on the necklace he had given her, smoothed a light coat of lipstick over her lips, and took a deep, steadying breath in front of the mirror. She then slipped on flat sandals and walked to the dining area, carefully arranging the dishes on the table. After double-checking everything, she went to the front door to wait for Chase. 1 hour passed, and still, he didn't arrive. She started to wonder if he'd hit traffic, even though it was a Sunday. She went back to the kitchen to grab her phone. When she looked at it, she realized she had missed messages from him. He was apparently dealing with something and would be late coming home. Melissa's shoulders slumped. She texted him to ask, "What time will you be home?" An hour later, she got a reply. "Pack your things. We're leaving." She blinked in confusion. "Where are we going?" she texted back. "We're running away together," came his reply. Melissa's heart pounded. "Running away together," she whispered to herself. The threat from his mother flashed through her mind. Was this his solution? "Oh, God," she mumbled. She ran upstairs, grabbed a suitcase, and began stuffing in her clothes as fast as she could. With shaking hands, she zipped it shut, then hurried downstairs. "What's happening, dear?" Mrs. Berta asked. "Where are you off to?" "He texted me," Melissa said breathlessly. "He wants us to run away together. I don't know why, but he told me to wait for him at the mall. He'll meet me there." Mrs. Berta scratched her head, frowning. "Goodness, that boy. All right, be safe. Keep in touch." "I will. Thank you for everything." Melissa quickly hugged her, then got into the waiting car. At the mall's food court, she settled at a table to wait for Chase. An hour went by, and he still hadn't shown. Melissa sent him messages every few minutes, growing more worried with each one that went unanswered. By 5 o'clock in the afternoon, there was still no sign of him. She tried calling, but he didn't pick up. Her nerves gnawed at her. She ordered food, hoping to calm her trembling stomach, but after finishing her meal, she was still alone. The mall was getting ready to close, and employees started ushering people out. Melissa's heart sank. She felt tears threatening to spill over. She called Mrs. Berta. "Has Chase come home yet?" she asked, voice trembling. "No," Mrs. Berta replied. "He's not here. I'm worried too. What happened?" Melissa ended the call, too panicked to explain. She paced near the exit until the mall officially closed, tears streaming down her cheeks. She kept looking at her phone, hoping it would ring, but it never did. Finally, she texted Chase again. Then her phone lit up with a single message. "I'm sorry, Melissa." She felt her heart lighten just a bit. "It's okay," she hurriedly typed back. "Where are you?" Minutes ticked by. No response. She tried calling, but the line was dead. She waited for another hour outside, but he never came. Something felt terribly wrong. With no other options, she caught a taxi and returned to Chase's house. He wasn't there. "I thought you two were running off together," Mrs. Berta asked, confusion all over her face. Melissa broke down. "He never showed," she whispered tearfully. Silence hung between them. Mrs. Berta hugged Melissa, gently trying to soothe her. "Where could he be?" Melissa asked in a shaky voice. "Maybe he's at his parents' house." Mrs. Berta thought for a moment. "That could be it. Let's check." They drove to the Farah family estate. Oddly enough, the guards let them enter the grounds without question, as though they were expected. Inside, in the grand living room, they found Mrs. Farah, calmly seated on a sofa. "I knew you'd come," she said, crossing her arms. Melissa's pulse throbbed in her ears. "Is Chase here? Please, I need to see him." A cruel smile curled across the older woman's lips. "Yes, he's here, upstairs in his room." She paused. "Go ahead, if you want to see him one last time." Melissa felt dread coil in her stomach. She hated the way Mrs. Farah was smirking, as though she found the situation delightfully amusing. "You heard her," the older woman instructed the staff. "Show them to Chase's room." They walked down a long corridor, each step making Melissa's heart thump harder. She stopped before a closed door, breathing shakily. "Are you sure?" whispered Mrs. Berta. Melissa only nodded. She knocked, calling Chase's name several times. The door finally cracked open, revealing Chase's face. She tried to peer inside to see if Fiona was really there. He immediately stepped out and shut the door behind him. "What are you doing here?" he asked, his voice cold. He didn't call her babe, didn't show any warmth at all. Melissa's eyes widened at his iciness. She mustered a shaky breath. "I waited for you at the mall until it closed, but you never came. Chase, what happened? Why are you— So why did you come here?" he interrupted, his tone unfeeling. Melissa felt a tear slip down her cheek. "You texted me, said we'd run away together. I believed you. Please, what's going on?" He shrugged, face emotionless. "If you don't have anything else to say, you should leave now, and take Mrs. Berta with you." Her heart cracked at his dismissive words. This wasn't the gentle, caring man she knew. "Chase, what's happening?" she asked, tears now rolling freely. He arched an eyebrow. "What do you think is happening?" I don't understand," she managed. "Everything was fine before you left the country. Now you're acting like—" He stared at her, then spoke with eerie calm. "You actually believed I was serious? That I'd choose you over Fiona?" Melissa's hands shook. "What do you mean?" He sighed as though bored. "I used you," he stated flatly. "Wasn't that obvious?" Melissa felt her knees weaken. She had to cling to the doorframe, her sobs growing louder. "Stop pretending you didn't enjoy it," he added with a sneer. "You benefited from it too, didn't you? Don't make me laugh by acting all pure." She pressed her fists to her chest, tears blurring her vision. "I never wanted your money or anything else. I loved you." Chase pinched the bridge of his nose in frustration. "You really are slow, aren't you?" He gave a short, humorless laugh. Melissa's breath caught in her throat. So you're choosing Fiona?" she asked, voice trembling. He pressed his eyes shut for a moment. "There's no choice to make. It's always been Fiona from the start. I never loved you, not even a little." He opened his eyes, which were reddened but still cold. Melissa felt as though she was being stabbed repeatedly. Even so, she tried one last time. She sank to her knees, hands clasped in front of her. "Chase, please," she begged. "I love you so much. You're my first love, and I wanted you to be my last. Don't do this." "Melissa, stand up," Mrs. Berta whispered, gently pulling at her arm. But Melissa ignored her, looking up at Chase with tear-filled eyes. "I can't lose you," she sobbed. "Please, Chase." "Leave," he said through gritted teeth. "Just go." "I can't. I love you, Chase." "Get out," he repeated, and then he shut the door. Melissa knocked again, over and over, tears streaming down her face. "Chase, open up. Please, just talk to me." "Let's go, Melissa," pleaded Mrs. Berta, tears in her own eyes. "You've spoken to him. You've heard what he said." They both turned as they heard Mrs. Farrar's voice again. "She's heard it, so there's no reason for her to stay. Throw her out," she ordered two of the household staff. Melissa felt strong hands seizing her by the arms. She tried to resist, but they dragged her away from the door. "No, no, Chase, please," she screamed, praying he would open the door and take it all back, but he never did. The guards hauled her out of the mansion and shoved her into the waiting car. She sobbed, calling Chase's name, but the heavy gates slammed shut. In the car, Melissa continued crying uncontrollably, ignoring the soothing words from Mrs. Berta. "Melissa, you need to help yourself," Mrs. Berta said softly. "This is painful, but you have to let him go. You have to find a way to move on." Melissa only shook her head. "No, I can't. I love him so much, Mrs. Berta. It hurts. It hurts so bad." Mrs. Berta pulled her into a comforting embrace. "Be strong, child, please." Melissa hardly heard her, too lost in her own despair. She had nowhere to go now, no reason to stay in this city. She asked the driver to take her to the bus station. She traveled for hours, eventually arriving in Seattle, where her grandfather lived. She stepped off the bus, lugging her suitcase, tears still stinging her eyes. A sleek black SUV suddenly pulled up in front of her. The rear door swung open to reveal her grandfather. He looked her over, concern etched on his features. Melissa slipped inside. The moment the car began to move, she broke down again. "Tell me what happened, child," her grandfather said, voice heavy with worry. He reached over and gently patted her back. Melissa couldn't form the words. All she could do was cry. Days turned into weeks, then months. Her grandfather tried to lighten her spirits, sometimes reprimanding her for staying out late or for isolating herself. She found ways to fill her time, partying or heading to basketball courts with friends, anything to distract her from the heartbreak. But her grandfather, who had spent years in the United States, decided it was time for her to head back to their main home in Portland, where her late parents had once lived. Her grandmother also insisted, telling her over the phone, "You should come home now. It's been 4 years, Melissa." She resisted at first, not wanting to return to the place where everything had fallen apart. But they remained firm, and eventually she found herself on a plane bound for Portland. She was filled with mixed emotions, fear of running into her past, dread of old memories, but also a sliver of relief to see her extended family again. When Melissa arrived, her aunt and cousins greeted her at the airport. They had signs that read, "Welcome home," and bright smiles on their faces. She tried to smile back. "Welcome back," her aunt said, hugging her tightly. "You've grown into such a beautiful woman. You look more and more like your mother." Her cousins teased, "We're going to make you do all the work at our family company." Melissa feigned a laugh. She felt the heat and humidity of this place, so different from Seattle's cooler climate. After all these years, she wasn't sure how to feel about being here. They boarded a van, heading toward the sprawling headquarters of Rivera Corporation, which her family owned. From there, a helicopter would take them to the old ancestral home just outside Portland. 4 years earlier, Melissa had run away from an arranged engagement her grandfather had tried to set up. She had been so desperate to avoid that marriage that she left everything behind. She never expected she would meet Chase, or endure a heartbreak so raw it still haunted her. Now she stared out of the helicopter's window, hugging herself tight. She tried to push away every memory of him, his smile, his promises, the warmth of his arms. "Hey," her cousin Roseanne said softly. "You okay?" Melissa forced a smile. "Yeah, I'm good," she lied, glancing at the sprawling city below. Once at the old family house, her grandfather greeted her warmly. "Welcome back, my child," he said, enveloping her in a hug. "I hope you can settle in for good this time. We've missed you." "Thank you, Grandpa," she replied, tears threatening to fill her eyes. She swallowed them back, determined not to cry. That night, she found it hard to sleep. Jet lag kept her awake, and her restless thoughts made it worse. Finally, around 7 in the evening, she crept out of her room. To her surprise, her 3 cousins were also awake, pacing the hallway. They decided to take a drive. Just the 4 of them, no chaperones, no bodyguards. Melissa got behind the wheel, her eyes itching for some thrill. She pressed the gas pedal too hard, making her cousins shriek in mock terror. "Melissa, slow down! You're scaring us!" one cousin yelled over the wind. She laughed, speeding through empty streets. They eventually parked in front of a nightclub. "Seriously, are you trying to give us all heart attacks?" Roseanne huffed, gripping her seat. Melissa just smirked, tossing her long hair over her shoulder. "Come on, let's have a drink or two. It's been ages since we hung out." They entered the packed club, music thumping so loudly they could feel it in their chests. People were dancing close, the floor crowded with swaying bodies. Melissa scanned the place, looking for an empty table. She thought to herself, "Maybe a little partying will help me forget. Again, even if just for tonight." Melissa and her cousins headed straight to the bar counter. She turned to the bartender. "1 tequila, clean, no lime," she said. Her cousins made faces when they heard her order. "I'll have 3 glasses of bourbon," Cherry said. When their drinks arrived, they all threw them back in unison, then ordered another round before joining the throng of people on the dance floor. They swayed and moved to the music, laughing as they brushed against each other in the packed crowd. Occasionally, men approached them, and the cousins darted away, weaving through the dancers to avoid unwanted attention. Eventually, they grew tired and returned to the bar to order more drinks. "Hi, ladies," greeted a group of well-dressed men. They looked tidy and handsome in their suits, possibly coming from work straight to the club for a night out. Melissa waved at them and offered a slight smile. 4 bourbons, she told the bartender. Her cousins chatted easily with the men, while Melissa remained mostly silent, only listening in. These men seemed less intoxicated than the other guys on the dance floor, more refined and polite in their approach. They invited Melissa and her cousins to join them at their reserved table, but the women politely declined. "See you around," Melissa said in farewell, before she and her cousins headed back to the dance floor. She'd only been dancing for a few minutes when she noticed a man deliberately edging closer to her, almost pressing against her. Uneasy, she tried to shuffle forward to avoid him, but he followed. Melissa stopped dancing and whirled to face him, only to gasp in shock when he suddenly collapsed to the floor. Other clubgoers shouted in alarm, some women stepping aside as the man slumped there, unconscious or in pain. Standing above him was Chase, his face locked in a grim expression. His jaw was tense, and there was a darkness in his eyes. He looked more mature now, still strikingly handsome, with a magnetic presence that both unsettled and captivated Melissa. "What happened?" asked Roseanne, who reacted faster than Melissa. Chase turned to Melissa with concern. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice laden with worry. Melissa wanted to roll her eyes at him. Instead, she arched an eyebrow. "Why wouldn't I be okay?" she asked in a sarcastic tone. He studied her intently, and she held his gaze without blinking, determined to show him he no longer had any effect on her. Chase eventually looked away and spoke to the bouncers who rushed over. "Throw him out," Chase ordered, gesturing to the man on the floor. Melissa couldn't help clucking her tongue in mild exasperation. Roseanne leaned over and whispered, "You know him?" "My ex," Melissa muttered. She was careful to keep her voice low, so only her cousin heard. Chase's group of friends approached, asking what happened. When they spotted Melissa, one of them, Tristan, raised his brows. "Oh, that's why," he said, with a knowing look. "How have you been, Melissa?" She noticed Tristan's gaze sweep over her from head to toe, as though taking in her transformation. They must have been surprised to see the former housemaid, the woman they once knew as Chase's employee, now dressed in expensive clothes at a high-end club. "I'm okay," she answered casually, giving them a tight smile. "Excuse us." She turned on her heel and walked back to the bar counter. The presence of Chase had ruined her mood, but she refused to leave immediately. She didn't want him to assume she was shaken. Her cousins stood silently beside her. "Maybe we should call it a night," Roseanne suggested. "If you keep drinking, people might think you're doing it because you saw him." Melissa tightened her grip on her glass, about to bring it to her lips, then slammed it back onto the counter. "Fine," she muttered, letting her cousins finish their drinks. She glanced toward the second level of the club and spotted Chase gazing down at them. She wasn't sure if it was just her imagination, but she didn't see Fiona anywhere. Who else could he be looking at, though? When her eyes locked with his again, she averted her gaze first. After settling the bill, she hopped off the high bar stool. "Let's go," she said quietly. "Maybe we can actually sleep now." Roseanne's eyes gleamed with playful mischief. "I'm not so sure you'll be able to sleep, what with running into your ex, who might be married by now." Melissa shot her a glare. "Why wouldn't I be able to sleep?" she said sharply. Her cousins laughed. "Defensive!" The next morning, Melissa greeted her grandfather in the garden. "Hi, Grandpa. Good morning," she said, kissing the top of his head before sitting across from him. This was where he liked to have breakfast, enjoying the outdoor air. Her cousins were all still asleep, as they usually woke late on Sundays when they didn't have work. He set down the newspaper and took a sip of his coffee, then regarded Melissa steadily. She frowned, wondering what he was about to say. "My granddaughter," he began. "I'm getting old." "Oh my God, here we go again," Melissa whispered under her breath. "People aren't immortal, you know," her grandfather continued. "Look at you. You're turning 28, not getting any younger either. I want to see you settle down. Before I die, I want to see you married, maybe even with children." "But I don't even have a boyfriend, and no one's interested in me right now, Grandpa," Melissa cut in. "How is that possible?" He mused. "Leopoldo told me you turned down his only son." Melissa grimaced. That guy's a notorious playboy, she hissed. Grandpa sighed. I thought maybe you'd give him a chance, but clearly not. Then how about a blind date with some of my friends' sons? They're good men. Melissa shook her head firmly. That's tiring, Grandpa. I'll only be disappointed. I have too much work these days. He nodded slowly, resigned. Fine. Do what you want. If I force you, I might only upset you further, which isn't good for my old heart. You'll live a long life, Grandpa, Melissa teased. Then she shrugged lightly. For all we know, one of these days I might just meet the man I'm meant to marry, and I'll drag him straight to the altar. She winked, and he responded with an indignant snort. After breakfast, Melissa headed to the gym on the 3rd floor, spending an hour on the treadmill. Once she had cooled down, she returned to her room to rest, shower, and change. She slept again until around 7 in the evening, waking only when a maid knocked on her door. Yes? She asked groggily. Ma'am, your grandfather says you have guests tonight. He'd like you to get dressed and come downstairs by 8. Melissa's brows furrowed. She didn't feel like socializing, especially if it involved business talk. She was still drowsy and wanted more sleep. Who is it? She asked. The maid shook her head. He didn't say, Ma'am. Just that you should prepare. When the maid left, Melissa leaned against the wall for a moment, thinking, who could it be? Why didn't Grandpa give me a heads up? With a sigh, she hauled herself into the shower, took a quick rinse, then applied some light makeup, careful to hide her lingering fatigue. She put on a red dress and flat sandals, wanting something simple but presentable. As she left her room, she ran into her cousins, who were also heading downstairs. Who do you think the guests are? Cherry wondered. Melissa remained silent, her eyes half-lidded with lingering drowsiness. She just hoped whoever it was would leave quickly so she could go back to sleep. A maid informed them that the guests were already in the dining area with their aunt and uncle. Melissa heard laughter as they drew closer. Good evening, Roseanne greeted cheerfully. Roseanne's eyes suddenly went wide, and she nudged Melissa's leg. With a lazy turn of her head, Melissa realized why her cousin was startled. Seated at the table were Chase, his parents, and some of Chase's friends, along with their own parents. By the looks on their faces, they were equally shocked to see Melissa. Her uncle stood up. This is my niece, Melissa, Harley and Clara's only child. She's their heiress, he said proudly. The expression on Chase's mother's face was priceless, especially when she realized who Melissa was. Mrs. Farrah's eyes practically bulged. Melissa offered a tight smile, though part of her wanted to remain expressionless. Good evening, she said politely. Her uncle continued the introductions. These are my daughters, Roseanne and Cherry. Her cousin said their hellos, likely excited to meet a new group of attractive men. Melissa, however, took her seat quietly and focused on her plate, all too aware that everyone was stealing glances at her. She felt Chase's gaze in particular. The adults turned the conversation to business, occasionally bursting into laughter, until one of them teased, So, do we have any single young men here tonight? Yes, very much single, Mrs. Farrah said quickly, beaming as she patted Chase on the shoulder. Especially my son, Chase. Melissa tried not to scoff. She ate her food in silence, though inwardly she was reeling. Single? She thought. Really? Her grandfather noticed her expression and chuckled. Well, Melissa is a bit of a man-hater these days, he joked, and the older guests looked uncomfortable. Chase's friends, on the other hand, grinned and threw meaningful glances his way. One of the parents addressed Melissa. What do you look for in a man, dear? Melissa answered evenly, looking them straight in the eye. Someone loyal, honest, and not a hypocrite. Someone who won't use or manipulate people. and if he happens to have kind, decent parents, that's a bonus. Her words seemed to land squarely on Mrs. Farrer. She grabbed her glass and took a long sip of water. Melissa briefly locked eyes with her grandfather, who gave her a subtle, sympathetic look. Dinner ended, but the guests lingered for drinks in the courtyard. Melissa wanted to excuse herself to her room, but Grandpa insisted she stay. Cherry leaned over, whispering, "So your ex is single now?" "I don't care," Melissa replied. "Wonder what happened to him and Fiona," Roseanne added. "Maybe he got tired of her." Melissa's voice was clipped. "Hush!" She let out a snort, then the two of them burst into giggles. Cindy joined in. "Aren't you at least curious what happened?" Melissa shook her head. "Number. If I cared, I would have hired a private investigator, but I didn't. It's pointless to waste time or energy on him after everything he did." She massaged her temples, memories flooding back of the day she begged Chase not to leave her, and how he turned her away with cruel words. She took a deep breath, stopping her tears before they could form. "I need to use the restroom," she said, excusing herself. She headed inside, aiming for the common bathroom near the kitchen. The moment she opened the door, she came face to face with Chase's broad frame. "Move!" she snapped, seeing him blocking her path. "Melissa, let's talk, please," he pleaded, desperation clear in his voice. "Talk about what?" she responded flatly. "As far as I remember, we have nothing left to discuss. You said all you needed to say 4 years ago." "Just let me explain," Chase begged. "Please." Melissa shook her head. "There's nothing to explain. Whatever you say won't undo the pain you caused." "Melissa, I'm sorry," he said, voice trembling. "Please hear me out." "I don't need your apologies," she fired back. "You can't fix what you broke in me with one word. You hurt me, turned me to dust. That won't magically vanish with a simple, sorry." She glared at him, her voice quivering from the effort of holding back tears. "Now step aside." Instead of moving, Chase tried to pull her into an embrace. She shoved him hard and slapped him across the face. "I hate you, Chase," she shouted, pointing a shaking finger at him, her voice trembling with barely contained emotion. He looked wounded, but she pressed on. "You can get down on your knees and weep, but the hate I feel won't disappear." Chase slowly fell to his knees, looking up at her with tear-filled eyes. "I love you so much, Melissa. I'm sorry I hurt you. I never wanted this." She let out a bitter laugh, tears escaping her eyes. "You never wanted this? Wow, that's rich." "There were problems at our company," Chase explained in a strained voice. "Debts, pressure from Fiona's family. I had no choice." "Don't feed me more lies, Chase," Melissa interrupted, voice cracking. "I'm telling you the truth, Melissa. I love you. I never stopped." She clenched her fists. "So you had to choose your company over me by destroying my heart? That's love?" "I had no choice," Chase insisted, his voice ragged. "Her parents were threatening lawsuits against my mother, refusing to restructure the debts. They were determined to ruin us for breaking off the engagement. If they had destroyed the company, hundreds of employees would have lost their jobs. Everything fell on me. I didn't see a way out." Melissa recalled those painful moments, the memory of him pushing her away like she was nothing. "Then you should have told me the truth instead of humiliating me. Remember what you said? You told me you used me, that I was worthless." She pushed him aside, tears streaming down her face again. "You told me you'd choose Fiona because she was richer. Remember that? You can't erase the disgust I feel for you. I don't care what you claim now." She took a few steps away, but froze upon seeing several people standing nearby, quietly watching. Her grandfather, aunt, and cousins all looked on with sympathetic faces. Some of them were close to tears. Melissa turned away from all of them and bolted upstairs to her room. She sobbed uncontrollably, realizing she wasn't over the pain. 4 years later, it still felt fresh. She cried until exhaustion overtook her. By the time she woke the next morning, her eyes were swollen. With a sigh, she applied concealer and put extra effort into her appearance. It was her first official day at work in the family company, and she needed to look presentable. She forced a bright smile at her reflection, determined not to let anything ruin her day. In the dining area, the entire household was already seated for breakfast. Everyone fell silent when she walked in. She mustered a cheerful tone. "I'm heading out early," she announced. "Lots to do at the office." They nodded, clearly still concerned about the scene from the night before. Melissa kissed each of them goodbye, then stepped outside, finding the family's car waiting for her. She slid into the back seat, intending to check emails from her secretary. When the vehicle stopped in front of the tall glass building, the driver opened her door. "Thank you," Melissa began, only to stop mid-sentence when she realized who the driver was. "What are you doing here?" She couldn't keep the anger from her voice. "I applied with your grandfather," Chase said, with an easy smile. "I'm your new driver and bodyguard." Melissa groaned and climbed out, trying to stay calm. The last thing she wanted was to give bystanders a show. She marched into the lobby, heading straight for the private elevator meant for company executives. Chase followed closely. She glared at him. "You're not required to babysit me all the way to my office. Your grandfather asked me to watch out for you, help you however I can," Chase said. Melissa felt her annoyance spike. Grandpa heard everything last night, she thought, so why is he helping this jerk get near me? "I don't need your help, Chase," she snapped. "You can leave." He stayed put, gazing at her steadily. "How am I supposed to work with you standing there?" she said impatiently. "Fine, I'll wait outside, but first, I want you to know," Chase began. "I never reconnected with Fiona. I only fixed the company's problem, and then I tried to find you, but you disappeared. I had no idea you were using your mother's maiden name." "Are you done?" Melissa asked sharply. Chase nodded and walked out. She dialed her grandfather the second the door closed. "Grandpa, why is Chase here? Why did you hire him?" she demanded. "We talked last night," he replied calmly. "He explained everything and—" "He's a con artist, Grandpa," Melissa cut in. "I know men, Melissa. Hear him out," her grandfather said. "If you can't forgive him or give him another chance, I'm sure he'll respect that, but it wouldn't hurt to talk, yes?" "Please, Grandpa," Melissa begged. "Don't believe him," he asked gently. "You really feel nothing for him?" Melissa had no immediate reply. "Decide when you're ready to answer that question," Grandpa said. "I'll believe whatever you say once you can answer it without shedding tears." With a sigh, Melissa ended the call. "Why does it feel like Grandpa is betraying me?" she thought. "How can I get any work done with him around?" She tried focusing on reviewing employee files and new project proposals. By noon, she felt restless. She peered through the glass panel at her secretary's desk and froze in irritation. Chase and Selena, her secretary, were chatting animatedly, laughing together. Melissa pushed her office door open with more force than necessary, causing both of them to jolt in surprise. She pretended not to care, though she was fuming inside. Chase leapt to his feet. "Mom, do you need anything?" Selena asked. Melissa took a deep breath. "I'm going to tour the marketing department," she announced. She brushed past them, heading for the elevator, Chase trailing behind. "You don't have to follow me," she said icily. "Your grandfather told me to stay with you at all times," he replied. "Wow, you're good at sweet-talking old people," she muttered. She shot him a glare. He sighed. "I only told him the truth. I said I love his granddaughter very much, that I've never stopped loving you, even after 4 years." Melissa rolled her eyes. That line is so old, Chase. Spare me. I'll keep saying it, he persisted gently. I'll prove it too. The elevator door opened and she stalked out, ignoring the hammering in her chest. She visited each station in the marketing department, but Chase's presence drew everyone's attention. Even the men were curious about him, while the women outright flirted. She glared as a female employee approached Chase. "Hi, handsome. Could I have your number?" the woman asked, flashing him a coy grin. Melissa's stomach twisted, though she pretended not to care. She walked ahead, letting the elevator door nearly close before Chase jammed his hand in to stop it. He gave her a small smile as he slipped inside. Melissa maintained a stony expression. "Where do you want to have lunch?" he asked softly. "Leave me alone. We're not friends, so don't talk to me," she snapped. "And what are you doing?" Chase leaned closer, smirking. "But we are close." She shrugged him off. "Back off, Chase." "Yes, honey?" he teased. "Ugh, you're unbelievable," she said, pushing him aside. He grinned. "I booked us a table at our favorite restaurant." "Stop pestering me. Why don't you get a real job instead of hovering around here?" Chase beamed. "I took leave precisely so I can be here with you." Melissa stormed out of the elevator the moment it opened. "I already told you last night. I hate you," he called after her. "I know you're angry, but I won't stop until you love me again." Melissa noticed her secretary's wide-eyed stare. The poor woman had no idea the man she'd been flirting with was her boss's ex. Before Selina could say anything, she cleared her throat. "Selina, do I have any visitors?" "Yes, ma'am. There's someone waiting in your office," Selina said, glancing nervously at Chase. "All right." Melissa moved to open the door, only to come face to face with Leonard, who had once courted her, and she had turned him down. "Hi, Melissa," Leonard said. "Oh, hi," she replied, stepping aside politely. "What brings you here?" He opened the door wider, indicating for her to go first. She shot Chase a warning glare, but he strode confidently inside, as though it were his own office. Leonard looked at him with confusion. "Chase, what are you doing here?" "I'm guarding my girlfriend," Chase declared, voice calm. Melissa all but exploded. "Girlfriend? Don't flatter yourself, Chase." Leonard's gaze darted from Melissa to Chase. Meanwhile, Chase slung an arm around Melissa's shoulders before she could protest. She gave him a vicious pinch in the side, but he didn't even flinch. Leonard looked awkward. "Ah, sorry, man, I should go." Leonard hurried out before Melissa could clarify a thing. Furious, she whirled on Chase. She shoved him again, stepping away. "What do you think you're doing?" she hissed. "Feeling cocky and forgetting I broke up with you ages ago? Stop acting like we're still together." He sighed. "So this is my punishment for hurting you?" She clenched her fists. "Darn right it is. You can never undo what's been done. You can't just waltz back into my life expecting forgiveness. Leave." Chase studied her pained expression. "You're right, I can't change the past, but I can face your anger if it means I get to prove how much I love you now. It's always been you, Melissa." His eyes filled with tears. "Whether you believe me or not, I was hurting just as much, maybe more when I threw those horrible words at you. I'm sorry." He wiped his eyes and walked out, leaving Melissa shaken. Her thoughts spiraled as she recalled the raw heartbreak he had caused. She stayed in her office the rest of the day, ordering lunch in. When her secretary came in for the afternoon coffee break, Melissa asked, "Where's Chase?" "He left around noon, Ma'am," Selina answered. Melissa murmured, trying not to let her relief or disappointment show. Maybe he'd finally given up. Good, she told herself, yet her chest felt oddly heavy. That evening, she noticed a different driver picking her up. She didn't ask any questions. One thing was certain, Chase had quit being her driver. Over the next week, he never showed himself again, though he kept sending her small surprises. flowers, balloons with "I'm sorry" written on them, little tokens that arrived both at home and at work. One afternoon, Selina knocked. "Ma'am, you have visitors." "Send them in," Melissa said. Her polite smile vanished when Fiona and Mrs. Farah walked in. They gave her a tentative smile, and she rose from her swivel chair to direct them to the couch. Mrs. Farah spoke first. "Melissa, I know you're still angry with me, and I can't blame you, but I want you to know I'm truly sorry for what I did." Melissa wasn't sure if she believed that apology, but the woman did sound sincere. "I'm sorry too," Fiona added softly. "You don't need to apologize to me," Melissa replied. "Fiona, I was the one who had a relationship with Chase, even though I knew he was engaged." Fiona gave a sad smile. "I have my own confession. I was the one who told him to break up with you. I pressured him to hurt you. In return, I convinced my parents not to press charges against his mother because they were furious that Chase backed out of the wedding." Fiona swallowed. "They were determined to ruin his family's company. So yes, I asked him to let you go. I know he loved you, but I threatened him." Melissa recalled Chase's words. It all lined up. Fiona continued. "I was pregnant then, with another man's child, but that man was married, and my family refused to face the scandal. So my father demanded Chase stick to our engagement, and when he refused, my father declared all-out war on the Farah's company." Fiona gave Melissa a watery smile. "I'm sorry, Melissa. I hope you can forgive him. If you still love him, please give him another chance. You both deserve to be happy." After Fiona and Mrs. Farah left, their words lingered in Melissa's mind. She wondered where Chase was, why he hadn't shown up in a week, and if he had finally decided to move on. Perhaps he only wanted her forgiveness, not her love. That night, as Melissa lay in bed, half asleep, she heard music from outside. The window was open, and she caught the strum of guitars and a male voice singing below. She got up and went out to the balcony where she saw Chase. He was singing with two of his friends playing along. His voice was beautiful, resonant, stirring feelings she thought she had buried. When he finished the song, he began to speak. He apologized again, recounting the entire story. He told her everything Fiona had confessed earlier that day. "Melissa," Chase called up to her, "please give me a chance. I promise I'll never hurt you again. I love you so much." She felt tears prick her eyes. "I forgive you, Chase," she said softly, "but I don't know if I can give you what you want yet." He smiled, relief flooding his features. "That's enough for me. Thank you for forgiving me. Let me court you again, Melissa, until you love me back." Melissa's heart pounded. Deep down, she knew she still loved him, which was exactly why she had never really moved on in the past 4 years. "Can I come up?" Chase asked, his eyes hopeful. "Wait for me in the living room," she replied, but he dashed over to a large tree, climbing it with surprising agility. "Be careful, you might fall," Melissa called, eyes widening in concern. He reached her balcony quickly, moving from branch to branch. She realized just how determined he was. "Thank you, Melissa," he whispered, wrapping her in a hug once he was safely beside her. "I love you. I've always loved you." She bit her lip, holding back her own admission. A swirl of emotions filled her chest. "Go invite your friends inside so they can have some refreshments," she said finally. "Thanks, guys. You can go on home," Chase yelled, waving to his friends below. Melissa leaned over the balcony, calling, "Wait, come inside and have something to eat or drink." But her cousins were already heading out to greet them. "We got it, Melissa," they called up, giggling. "You two talk up there." She rolled her eyes. "Come on, let's go downstairs," she suggested. Instead, Chase caught her arm. "Let them be. I want to talk to you." "We can talk downstairs," Melissa pointed out. He pursed his lips, eyes dancing mischievously. She glared at him, and gave him a playful pinch on the side. "Ow, stop that," he said, laughing. He took her hand and led her inside her bedroom. He plopped onto the sofa, patting the seat next to him. Melissa hesitated, then sat down. Chase draped an arm around her. "Hey," she protested. "We're not completely okay yet, remember?" He gave a half smile. "Is it wrong to put my arm around you?" "Yes, it's wrong," Melissa insisted. "Fine," Chase said, pouting dramatically. Then he stole a quick kiss on her cheek. "You're crazy," she murmured with a reluctant laugh. "I missed you so much, Melissa," he said softly. She sniffed. "I know." Midnight came and went, and he was still there. Melissa was getting sleepy. "Go home," she urged him. "It's late." "I'm staying here," he teased. "Whatever. Then sleep on the sofa," she said, yawning. She got into bed, pulled the covers up, and drifted off. When she woke the next morning, she found Chase lying beside her, holding her tight. He opened his eyes lazily. "Good morning, babe," he murmured. "I love you." Melissa gave him a small smile. "Hey, so why'd you vanish for a week?" she asked. "I thought you'd finally decided to leave me alone." Chase sighed. "I had to go to Miami. One of the projects ran into trouble. Did you get all the things I sent you?" "Yeah," she said. "Thanks." He scooted closer, pulling her against him. Melissa scowled, pretending to be annoyed at his smooth moves. "Chase, stop," she warned. Right on cue, the door flew open, and her grandfather walked in. He froze, clearly not expecting to find them in bed together. "Didn't I say you two should get married first?" Grandpa sputtered. They scrambled out of bed, Chase rubbing the back of his neck sheepishly. "Call your parents," Grandpa told him firmly. "Tell them to arrange a proper visit. We're making this official." "Yes, sir," Chase replied at once, bounding to his feet. Melissa shot him a glare. He only winked back. Within 3 months, the wedding preparations were complete. During those 3 months, Chase picked Melissa up every morning to drive her to work and took her home each evening. He went out of his way to make amends for every hurtful moment in their past, patiently erasing her doubts until Melissa was certain she could trust him again. One night, she mustered the courage to say, "Chase, I love you." They were at a restaurant and he nearly dropped his fork. His eyes glistened with emotion. "You do?" he asked, voice unsteady. She nodded, smiling softly. "Yes, I love you." Chase blinked back tears. "You have no idea how happy this makes me. I've waited 4 years to hear it again. I love you more than anything, Melissa, with every beat of my heart." Their wedding took place on a grand scale, and right after, they boarded a cruise ship for a 1-month honeymoon, savoring every moment together. Melissa felt like she was floating on clouds. When the month ended, Melissa discovered she was pregnant. Chase's eyes went wide with joy. He lifted her into his arms, spinning her around. "Oh, babe, you've made me so happy." "Chase, put me down. I'm getting dizzy," Melissa protested, laughing. He carefully set her on her feet and pressed a tender kiss to her lips. "I love you so much, Melissa." She smiled. "I love you too, Chase. The end.